The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-host and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on our live shows.
Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of This Week in Guns is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to This Week in Guns. This show is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network and Patriot Patch Company.
And this show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. I'm your host, Sean Heron. My pleasure, as always, to introduce our guests. First up, we've got a creative thinker with a passion for things that go bang, the creative director for Athlon Outdoors, Ken Ross. Welcome back, buddy.
It's good to be back, man. Thanks for having me.
Next up, we've got a brand newbie to the show. He's a Marine, an airman, cop, security contractor, and creator of the Kit Badger YouTube channel and gear review website. Ivan Loomis, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Glad to be here. There's massive feedback, something going on. I didn't figure this out.
No problem. Ken, are you hearing anything? Does it sound all right?
I am not hearing anything. No.
Okay, perfect. I always get scared.
It's us torturing Ivan.
Sorry, Ivan.
It's like a 20-second delay.
Oh, dang, that's weird. First up, we've got Patriot Patch Company. Definitely, you guys know them. We love them. That is Jake. That is Ryan. And they're doing awesome stuff. Join the Patch of the Month Club. It is really cool. This month is really cool. It is Santa Claus related. I'm not going to do any spoilers or anything like that. Go check it out, patriotpatch.co, and sign up for that. And Second Call Defense. I'll talk a little bit more about them as we go. Let's get into the first story. UC Davis study finds that universal background checks did not reduce homicides. Now, yes, clearly, I think we all pretty much assume that. But first off, this is brought to us by Breitbart. And let's see, this study was conducted by the UC Davis's Violence Prevention Research Program, the VPRP, and the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Here's the thing. The study found that no net difference between firearm-related homicide rates before and during the 10 years after policy implementation. Not really a huge surprise to me. They do actually say and admit that their findings of their study disagree with those of studies associating comprehensive background check policies with a reduction in firearm homicide and suicide in Connecticut and an increase in firearm homicide and suicide after comprehensive background check repeal in Missouri. I think this is kind of interesting. What do you think, Ken?
Well, yeah, it's definitely interesting. It looks like what they believe will happen won't make it. If they get what they want, it won't make a difference. They'll get universal background checks and everything will stay the same. And this isn't a month study. It looks like it's a 10-year study. So, yeah, but they won't pay any attention to it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, the weird thing is this doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, they put in universal background checks in Washington, and a good friend of mine, Savage 1R from We Like Shooting, he kind of keeps track of this stuff very, very carefully, and there's been really no difference. Ivan, I'm going to go over to you. This is the background checks don't seem to be reducing homicides. Did you have a chance to read that? What do you think?
I mean, it's weird because it seems like if we just made murder illegal, that would kind of solve the problem.
Like drugs, right? Because
right.
We make drugs illegal and no one's addicted to drugs.
Yeah, everything we declare war on seems to work out really well for us, like war on obesity or anything else. But no, I mean it. You're creating a law to ideally circumvent violence, and in doing so, people who obey the law will follow it. So yeah. You're back to square one.
Yep, totally agree. I do wonder if the Bloomberg School of Public Health is going to pull funding from any of these groups, just because this doesn't go with the things that they try to tell us all the time. So I guess that remains to be seen, but either way, kind of interesting. Next story, Antifa member charged with assaulting Marine reservists in Philadelphia. Wow. So it's like we were almost there. A man believed to be the leader of an Antifa group in Philadelphia was recently charged with assaulting a group of Marine reservists and calling them Nazis and white supremacists. He turned himself into the police last week after the investigators released a video that showed him and two other suspects yelling at the group after a We the People rally in Philadelphia. He was charged with a bunch of different stuff. And according to police, U.S. Marine Corps reservists called the cops after a group of numerous males and females approached them around 3:20 the day of the rally. The suspects then maced the Marine reservists, then proceeded to punch and kick them. During one assault, one of the complainants had his cell phone stolen by one of the male suspects. Now, my thoughts on this personally are these dudes are lucky that they didn't get the crap kicked out of them. But Ivan, I'll start with you.
It's one of those things like just adding fuel to the fire. Like, I think it would have been great if no one showed up. Like,
yeah,
why were you there? Like, if someone wants to have a rally and no one shows up, like, I think that's more insulting than anything else.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I'm just I'm surprised the Marines didn't just like beat the crap out of him personally, because the Marines that I know. Go ahead.
Oh, just discipline. Like,
right.
Knowing that, like, one, don't want to go back to your unit and get like court-martialed or anything like that.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, like, it'd be like, good job. You just beat up some kid in skinny jeans. Like, good on you.
Okay, that's a good point. Ken, what do you think?
I think that it's amazing how violent we have become, as a society. It seems like we're going backwards. It doesn't matter what side it's on now. The mob mentality, if you are if it's Antifa or if it's anti-black or Hispanic or whatever race you decide you're going to hate that week. This mob mentality, what people just, they need to go home and have a drink, because this is when prohibition was the day prohibition was legalized, or prohibition went away. So today is the day we drink, and that's what they need to do. Go home, have a drink, and chill out. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
The whole thing where they're like, yeah, we're going to fight violence with violence. I was like, moron, if we were violent, there would be way huge problems in the country, but we're not violent. That's the problem. You're fighting peace and placid spirits with violence. And that's just dumb.
Yeah. I don't get it. I don't understand what's going on with people nowadays, but I guess I have other things to do rather than protest every day. A job helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Next story, NRA TV rips active shooter PSA for all its shortcomings. This is Chuck Holton and Dana Lash basically going a little bit back and forth. So this video came out. It is how to survive an active shooter. It's run, hide, fight. And then they talk a little bit about in the video with Dana and Chuck about the fighting part. And then they kind of just throw some jabs at Media Matters, another anti-gun group, and says that those progressive staffers would just hide in the fetal position and blah, blah, blah. I've got some interesting opinions on this, but Ken, I'm going to start off with you. What do you think?
Well, I don't know how much I agree with Dana. And, I'm thinking that, okay, if we're not going to give the students guns, that if that's off the table, it's about time they told them that they should fight. It is exactly what they said. They should run first. They should hide. Maybe they should have locked the door after watching the video. It's like, maybe you guys should have locked the door before you ran and hid. You ran in and said an active shooter is coming, lock the door behind you and then run and hide. But to criticize them for saying that they should fight any way they could, that's what I would tell my kids. If you don't have a gun, then you use whatever you can find to fight. And when I find you, I want to know that you put forth every effort you could to survive. I can't really, would I rather they have guns? Absolutely. But that's not an option right now. So here are your options.
That was exactly what I took out of that. What do you think, Ivan?
No, I'm for violence when it is the only option, and to limit it to like firearms, for example. Like, if that's not an option, then like your mind is your only limit as far as creativity.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever you can do. I talk with my boys and they're like, if the bad guy comes in here, I'm gonna do this, and it's like, okay, like, try it. Like, sure, why not?
I know, I completely agree. And that's what I got out of this. I was like, why are we making fun of this? Like, these are reasonable things. They're making fun of the 3-hole punch. I was like, I don't know, that makes a pretty good striking weapon. And then they have a good strategy. They distract them, they hit them. Definitely me personally, I think that their idea of just hiding the weapons under objects and things like that, I'm like, not a huge fan of that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I didn't really have a problem with this video, and they really just tore it up. And I think that this is personally, I think NRA and most of their marketing is way off base, and definitely not marketing to people like us. But that's just my thoughts. Any last things on this one, guys?
No, I agree with you. I think that I'm disappointed in the confrontational stance that is always taken. Instead of saying good on you for coming up with an option where we're not just cowering under desk and hoping that they don't see us, saying that you can't see me like an ostrich. I think that they're doing some positive things, and the NRA should be stepping up saying, okay, yeah, this is a great step in the right direction.
Anything that moves the needle, like
right.
anything that moves the needle, like take it.
Mm-hmm.
Could not agree more, guys. I'm glad we're all on the same page. I was actually a little bit nervous because I was like, I really think that the NRA TV people were way off base and acting like jerks and buttholes, but glad we're all kind of on that same page. Next story, U.S. Marshals arrest suspected Alabama mall shooter. This story we became aware of this story when a lawful concealed carrier, got shot by the police and turned out to not only have not been the gunman, but had been a guy who was trying to do good. He died. At first, the police were hailed as heroes because they didn't realize that he wasn't a bad guy. And then kind of things have gotten a little bit ugly since then. Well, I am proud to announce, or glad to announce, I should say, not proud, that they did arrest the guy. He was staying at a relative's house, 20-year-old guy. And this is the one who shot there was a 12-year-old and an 18-year-old that got shot in this mall shooting. So I'm glad they have the right guy. And it's unfortunate that the good guy in this one actually ended up dying through no fault of his own. Ivan, what do you think? Did you read about that story?
No, I actually didn't catch that story.
Yeah, it was pretty tough. It was just basically like some argument in a mall, and the argument kind of got deadly. Gunman pulled out a gun, shot a bunch of times, ended up injuring and wounding a 12 and an 18-year-old. And then from that point, concealed carrier drew his gun, was kind of running away from the scene, had his gun out. Cops saw him, shot him, killed him, and the real bad guy actually got away. Ken, what do you think?
I think the original situation was frightening, especially being an African-American male. I watched a commentary from one of the late night hosts where he said, being black, period, being black without a gun, being black with a gun, is just plain being black is becoming very dangerous. Several people had out their guns. This guy takes out his gun and he's the bad guy. So I had a serious problem with that, and it comes back down to training and how we're training our police officers. And I love police officers. I love them to death. I believe that they are the people in our neighborhood, as Mr. Rogers, as they used to say, or Sesame Street used to say, who are the people in your neighborhood? I think we need to get back to that. But I also think that our police officers do need more funding for training. It's not their fault that their departments can't afford to send them to training the way they should have the training. I'm glad they caught the person. I am very happy that they finally caught the right person. Bravo, they got the guy, but the way that went down is tragic, and we can't just turn our heads and say, oh, police are great people. Everybody has a bad day, and this was a bad day for the police department.
Definitely. Ivan, anything else on this one?
From the sounds of it, it was basically an argument, like, to begin with. And I've had the discussion with friends and stuff, and it's like, you have no idea what someone is capable of, or, like, for that matter, like, someone's having a bad day. Like, whatever the argument is, like, it is not worth it. Like, it's not worth getting shot, stabbed, anything like that.
Yeah.
And people react stupid, man.
I definitely agree. So Ken, going back to what you said, this is an interesting one for me because clearly I grew up a white dude. So I personally, I do have trouble relating definitely to a lot of stuff, but I've talked to enough people like Maj Touré and Tony Simon and Kevin Dixie, and like all these dudes who are in the industry, and they had a different upbringing than I did, and they have opened my eyes to different things. But Ken, do you think, I don't know, it is a tough one for me because we weren't there. We don't know all the details, but this is one of my biggest fears is, ending up drawing my firearm in some kind of active shooter or something like that. And then what happens after that? Other concealed carriers see a guy with a gun who happens to be me, even though I was, not the bad guy in this scenario, and take them out. But, in this one, do you think maybe if it was a white dude, does it end differently? I don't know. And clearly we're just guessing here. We don't know anything about the officer.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We are guessing. It's interesting. I just went through a shoot house course in Alliance, Ohio, and one of the biggest takeaways I came out of there with was target recognition, being able to see who you're shooting and why you're shooting them. And the very last run through the house that we did, every single person shot an undercover officer, and he happened to be black, wearing overalls. He had his badge low. He had a gun, but you looked at him, you said, oh, he's got a gun. He's a black guy. You pop him in the chest or put a couple in his head. And every single one of us walked up to him and said, oh, he's got a badge. Yeah, he's got a badge down there. There were several instances where we went through the house where there were other things like that. Not everybody. Now, some people shot different people, but not everybody shot them. But that black dude got tagged by every single, including me, every single person that went through the house. We watch television. We are conditioned to 6'2" hooded black dude is a bad guy. You look at TV and they struggle to find bad guys who are not the over 6 foot black guy, big black guy. Yeah. And it is how we've been conditioned. Right. Is it right? No, I don't think so. But, and this is my opinion, my humble opinion.
Really, yeah.
Yeah. But I think that all of us need to be better about it, including us. We need to stop putting ourselves in those roles. And we need to start recognizing that we're not always the bad guys, because I don't want to get shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's good to have these discussions, as uncomfortable as they are, just because, I lived my life completely kind of with blinders on. I didn't realize that stuff like that even happened, but I've talked to enough people that I respect to know that clearly these things actually do happen in the real world, in the world that I don't live in. And it makes me think about it just a little bit differently. All right. Good stuff, guys. Next story. Indictment handed down for Dallas officer that shot Botham Jean. All right. This is another tough one. MSN.com has the story. Just for people who don't remember this story, guy's sitting in his apartment. A lady cop comes home. She's super tired. She gets off the elevator on the wrong floor. She goes to what she thinks is her apartment door, and it's a little bit dislodged. She tries to put her key in, and the door opens. She pushes the door open, thinking that she's looking at her own apartment. The guy who actually lives there in his own apartment stands up. She sees him down the hallway. She draws her firearm, thinking that there's an intruder in her home. She kills this man. And I don't know. It's just an awful story. Anyway, she's now been indicted for murder. The thing that I think is interesting on this is that she was originally charged with manslaughter, and that murder constitutes someone intentionally and knowingly committing a crime, whereas manslaughter involves recklessly doing something. This is going to be interesting how it plays out, and it's a disaster no matter which way you look at it. Two people didn't lose their life here. One person didn't lose their life. Two people lost their life. Yes, she took a life. Yes, it's completely awful, but she's also lost her own life. Ivan, did you hear about this one? What do you think?
Yeah, it's terrible all the way around. I think it's pretty hard to turn it into murder, considering what is considered murder, and absolutely manslaughter. And it's how did you end up in that? But I mean, even to the end of murder, you know what? I'm going to go murder someone one floor below or above me in my same apartment no, there's probably not malice aforethought there.
Yeah.
that's not there.
It's just so surprising that they indicted her on murder charges instead of manslaughter. Now I'm like, what information do they have that we haven't heard or haven't seen or don't know about,
Yeah. Music too loud.
I guess, it could have been a grudge or something like that. Ken, what do you think?
Yeah, it is unfortunate, and I don't understand the upgrade from manslaughter. It doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, manslaughter carries a harsh penalty as well. So, yeah, no forethought, no premeditation, unless it is unfortunately, you're seeing a lot of places, especially small towns, start to throw the book at police officers because it's cheaper to do that than it is to deal with the Ferguson effect where the town gets burned down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. It's unfortunate, but like I said, I wasn't sitting in the courtroom. I don't know everything that happened. Maybe something was presented where they felt like she intentionally did something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Either way, I'm curious to see how it plays out, what comes out in the court case. But man, it's just crappy all the way around. In some good news, virtue signaling failed. Dick's numbers continue to shrink. I don't know if that was on purpose, Kenny, but well done if it was. They're hurting. They're absolutely hurting. They had they're still experiencing a slump. They posted another sales decline of 3.9% in their fiscal third quarter. Net sales fell 4.5% to $1.86 billion. A drop that the company executives attributed to weak performance in its hunting and electronics category. I say good because clearly they took out AR-15s out of their stores and they changed the age that you can purchase in their stores to 21 years old. And hunters and outdoors people and gun owners have responded with their wallets. And I think that that's fantastic. They've even said that they're doing a test run in 10 stores, that they're taking all hunting goods and outdoors gears out of those stores completely, just basically to get rid of stock that's just sitting there stagnant. And I think that this is exactly how the free market works. This is exactly what should happen. They did something stupid and they hurt people who were some of their, prime customers. Clearly bad things are happening for them. And I have to say good on that one. Ken, what do you think?
100%. I love all of the shrinking.
The innuendo
slumping. There? Yeah, the innuendo, slumping, and it's clearly cold in every Dick's store. But I think that you're right. I think businesses have the right to do whatever they want. They are independent businesses. They can do whatever they want. They can make whatever decisions they want. But much like I tell my children, you pay for every decision that you make in some way. And this is how they're paying. And I think the guy who's making the calls at the top, publicly traded company, they should really start looking at making a change.
Yeah, I agree. Ivan?
No, I think it's great. Like, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And I mean, it is the market though. And obviously a lot of people can do it. I mean, look at REI, like they don't carry guns, like no worries. But
True.
If your market share is based on the fact that you do carry guns and then you decide to like push all those people out off to the side, like you'll probably pay for that.
Yeah. And they clearly are. It'll be interesting. They're going to replace, the hunting and outdoor stuff with more logoed sports memorabilia. So, well, hopefully that works for them. But I can honestly say when I first started shooting, I bought a lot of my stuff at Dick's Sporting Goods and haven't been in there in a couple of years now. So
yeah, that was my go-to for last minute ammo.
Yeah, me too. That's exactly what it was. I was like, oh, I need some ammo. Let me run over to Dick's real quick. Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. That'll do for that segment of the show. We're going to move into a little bit more serious stuff here. This one, Oklahoma man shoots home intruder 5 years after shooting a previous intruder. I do want to play this guy's audio real quick because it's very interesting. This is a 34-second clip. I apologize in advance, but I think I want you to hear him.
A man shoots and kills an intruder breaking into his home.
He comes into view and Blam! Boy, that 9mm is real loud inside the house. I thought my life was in danger. I shot him, and I'll do it again. He brought this on himself. I have no sympathy.
All right, good for you, buddy. So basically, guy breaks into his house. He shot him, and the man died. He says, "I thought my life was in danger. I shot him, and I will do it again," says Charles Sweeney. Now, this came 5 years after it happened previously. Two guys had broke into his house 5 years earlier, and basically they were going to scrap it for copper. They didn't realize that anyone lived there. There's another part of this article, or a separate article, that has an interview with the guy that he shot the first time, shot him 6 times. And he says that he walked in, saw him with the gun, said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't know the house was occupied. We're going to leave." The guy shot him. He said, "Oh, you shot me. Please stop shooting me." Shot him again. Said, "I'm leaving. Please stop shooting me." Shot him again. Ultimately 6 times. Now, clearly, this is a guy who broke into his house. I don't really have a whole lot of sympathy for him. I also noticed in the first article, it says that it's the second time that he shot someone in his house, and he's escorted at gunpoint at least half a dozen people off the property. I'm going to save all my commentary for the end. Ivan, what are your thoughts?
I would move. Like, obviously, that's a bad place to live, man. Like, you got a serious problem going on there.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on exactly, but Ivan, do you feel like he's completely justified? Do you feel like
I mean, justified in the sense that if someone breaks into your house, like, yeah, like if your life is in danger, absolutely. Having said that, though, if people are continually breaking into your house, like there's an issue, like bigger issue at play. Like, one, you have a big neon sign that says like, "Come rob me," or like something's going on.
Yeah. I'm a little bit perplexed by this one. Ken?
Yeah, so am I. I struggle with this one a little because I wholeheartedly believe that he should be able to defend himself and his home, not his home, but himself. If he felt like he was in danger, great bodily harm, absolutely. I do kind of get the feeling that something is going on there where that many people end up in his house. Is it dark? Is he leaving a back door open? One of the guys said he thought he was going in to steal scrap out of it. And the guy admitted, "Hey, I was in somebody's house I shouldn't have been in. Yeah, I should have been shot." But yeah, something is going on where somebody looks at your house and they think they can come in there and take the copper out for scrapping. What kind of house do you live in?
Yeah. It just seems so weird to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
And hearing the other guy talk about the story, how he asked him to quit shooting him and he kept shooting him. I don't know, whatever. Like, bottom line, this guy felt like he was in danger. He responded with, lethal force, like he was allowed to by law, especially in Oklahoma. They do have that right, like we do in most states. It just, I don't know, something's weird about it, but clearly, especially because the other media report about interviewing the guy that he previously shot, that just something was weird. And maybe it's nothing weird with the homeowner. Maybe it's just something weird with the news around there. I don't really know. It just something made the hairs on the back of my neck prickle up a little bit. I will say that if the news is going after him and thinking he's doing something wrong or whatever, that brings me to second call defense, which is exactly what it was built for, is cases like this. He thought his life was in danger. He shot him and he'll do it again. With second call defense, they tell you not to speak to the police without an attorney present, clearly because everything that we say can and will be used against us in a court of law. This guy believes he's the good guy in the situation, and I hope that that's what all the evidence and everything bears out. But bottom line, once you pull that trigger, you're going to have to deal with a lot of things, and it's going to be questioning by police, and hopefully you just never know if you're going to get indicted or sued by the guy's family or things like that. And that's what second call defense takes care of. They give you attorneys, they pay for everything day one, $1, so you're never out of pocket, and it's incredibly inexpensive, between $10 and $40 a month. So go to firearmsradio.tv/SCD, find out more and get a free month just for trying it out. Don't wait till you're on the news, guys. Definitely check it out today. Just go look at it. And if you have any questions, let me know for sure. Next story, gun-free Michigan college tells staff to use hockey pucks to defend against an active shooter. I saw this one get just clearly lambasted all over the internet. There was another story earlier this year where a college gave people those tiny little baseball bats and said, use these as weapons. And again, I'm just going to save my commentary to the end. Ivan, go ahead. Tell me what you think about this one.
I don't know, coming from military, law enforcement, contracting, stuff like that, like different evolutions of training, scenarios-based training. Like what I would love to see is the administrators who basically came up with this, like prove it out. Like we'll get someone come in with Sims and he'll be armored up. Like you can do whatever you want with those hockey pucks, and let's see how this plays out. Full speed, full power. Let's do this thing.
Yeah. All right. That's fair. I like that, actually.
Yeah, so do I.
Ken?
I've been hit with a hockey puck. It really hurts.
Yeah.
But I would just get pissed and shoot somebody. So if I had a gun and you hit me with a hockey puck, you'd be the first one I shot.
I totally agree.
Yeah, God damn it. I'm sorry. That hurt.
I agree. I've been hit by hundreds of hockey pucks, and it hurts every single time. Every single time. It's funny that this is in Michigan. So because hockey is alive and well in the state of Michigan. But at the same time, yes, I think it's a little bit ridiculous. But we talked about the story earlier where we're talking 3-hole punches and laptops and water bottles and, distracting with paper. And it all comes down to at least that needle has moved, Ivan, that to use the term that you used earlier. The needle has moved and they realize that self-defense and preservation of our naturally given right to defend ourselves and our life. I think that they're starting to get that. They haven't got all the way there yet. They haven't gotten to the point where I should, be able to use whatever force against them that they're going to use against me. Go ahead, Ivan.
I was going to say, and don't get my comment, like, don't misconstrue my comment. Like, I think it's great that they're just entertaining the idea of violence. But when you put people in a situation, you're like, okay, like, here it is. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. And like, full speed, full power. Let's see how it works.
Yeah, no, I love
and
that.
all of a sudden it's really telling. And it's like, wow, like maybe we should use hockey sticks instead of pucks next time. Like,
I'm with you, man. And I think that moving that needle, getting them to realize that their lives are more important than the piece of trash that would try to take them from them. I think that's good. So whether it's a hockey puck, a tiny little baseball bat, I love Ivan's idea of actually proving it out. I would love to see that in a lot of different places, but ultimately, yeah, getting them to realize that they're more important than the killers it's a move in the right direction. So as gun owners, I would say, guys, when we see stuff like this, make memes, because memes make me laugh, and I'm totally down with our meme society these days. But ultimately, also realize that just them realizing that defending their lives is something important. Eventually, if they keep going down that path, they're going to come to the same conclusion that we came to. That they should use whatever against the person who should deny them their lives. But stuff like this, definitely a move in the right direction, in my opinion.
I really think that universities and public institutions need to really start taking a look at their policies, because if they're making these changes, they believe something needs to be done. Yeah. So if something needs to be done, then let's move it in the right direction. Yeah, I think they're making a good effort, but really bring somebody in and, like you said, prove these things. I think the run, hide, protect yourself, fight. I think that makes a lot of sense. But if you're telling people to do that, then you understand that something needs to be done. And if we're saying that, then if they don't do it, the kids and the students and the faculty are going to start figuring it out for themselves. What are you telling your kids to take into those institutions with them? My daughter carries pepper spray. I don't care if you get kicked out of school for pepper spray. You're going to have it with you. Or what kind of small fighting instrument? The flashlight that has the bezel on the end. What do they have with them now that the administration doesn't even know is in their bags?
Yeah, totally agree. Next story. Suicide and overdoses drop life expectancy rate for the third year in a row. And this comes to us data from the CDC. Both those things are up. Drug overdoses have gone up to 731.9 per 100,000 people in the United States. Suicides have gone up let's see, where's that number? It
Those
was
drug overdoses. Were those prescribed or?
I
Because
believe
there's a lot of deaths from prescribed drugs that happen to. I wasn't sure. Sorry to.
no, so I believe that those numbers would be counted under malpractice. Or, well,
Okay.
no, because I mean you're talking about just prescription drugs that people abuse, right?
Just in like, there's a lot of people just killed in hospitals with drugs.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that goes under from what I recall, that goes under like malpractice, medical malpractice
okay.
numbers. So this would be people, whether it's heroin or oxycodone, whatever it happens to be, it would be overdoses with things that with narcotics or drugs. And suicide actually, let's see, rose by 3.7%, and it accounts for 14 deaths per 100,000. So even suicide is hundreds and hundreds of, to a factor of 7 below what overdoses are. But either way, life expectancy numbers have dropped because both those things have gone up. And I don't know, Ivan, I'll just kind of start with you, and we can go anywhere with this story really. But what do you think about that? What do you think about life expectancy? What do you think about suicides going up, overdoses going up? What do you think it says about society? Anywhere you want to go.
Man, we could go down the rabbit hole in this.
I'm okay.
I actually made some videos talking about suicide with respect to one, like teenagers and stuff like that, like youth, and then also PTSD. And yeah, like honestly, it's the elephant in the room. Like it really is. Like it absolutely is. Because statistically, like your kid is way more likely to kill themselves than ever die in an active shooter like scenario. And then in addition to that, when you look at all the active shooters, like it's people that are suicidal. Like it's suicide by they all want it. They're all feeling so much. I won't say they all. Most of them, as I understand it, are feeling so much pain and suffering that they just want other people to go with them. Like they want to share in that. And ultimately they are suicidal at the end of it. And the numbers of, I forget what the numbers are, but if you look at like 10-year statistic for suicides, like it is massive. Like it is straight up epidemic. But I mean, it's not talked about and stuff like that too. And I think big picture, like it is so massive and deep. And I don't think, well, here's the other unfortunate thing. Like there's no legislative fix for it. Like, hey, we're going to legislate that a parent gives a shit about a kid. Like that doesn't really work. Sorry, I don't know if we can cuss on here or not. But no, I mean, really it comes down to like having someone in someone's life that values them, like at the end of the day. And yeah, like, and same with all of the, probably most of the drug overdoses, like people aren't taking copious amount of drugs because they're in a good place. Like it's all together. And I think it all comes back to just people not being in the right space and like not feeling valued. And I think that comes from so many different places. I mean, to include like the whole participation trophy. Like you tell someone you're special over and over, like, do you know how devastating that's going to be when they realize they're not special? They are special, but they're not special for all the reasons people have told them they're special. Like, hey, you participated, good job. Like, no, like everyone has amazing, unique talents and abilities, but eventually you like have this reckoning of like, oh, like I'm not special, even though everyone told me was. Like, puts people in a dark place.
Yeah, very well put. Ken?
On the other side of that, the drug addiction, I took a class recently, and it was the Norco, where you spray it into your nose and it cuts off the opioid effects to the brain, so that you can save a great deal of people from dying from narcotic overdose. And before we did it, before they showed us how to use it, which only takes a couple of seconds, they actually went through some figures and talked to us a little bit about how the whole thing started, the opioid addictions started, with doctors prescribing this stuff and saying that you can't get hooked on it. And it's turned into not just urban communities, but everyone is, from athletes to housewives to, becoming hooked on these drugs because of being overprescribed by physicians and drug companies giving the wrong misinformation to physicians. So we've got a whole community of people who are addicted to this stuff by no fault of their own, because of no fault of their own. Now, it's up to them to get off of it, but this is a serious problem that we have. There are people who are dying daily, thousands and thousands of people dying daily from this opioid addiction. And I took this class because just like medical, if I'm serious about saving lives, I learned CPR, I learned how to apply tourniquets, I learned how to stop major bleeds. I also will have a greater chance of seeing someone dying from an overdose. Yeah. So I need to know how to administer this. And it is so bad that they're giving them to police officers. There are programs where police officers are handed these things. They walk out the door with them and, they can administer it. They're saying that it will be like tourniquets. It will be like CPR soon, where you learn how to administer this drug, because we will start seeing so many overdoses. And as a firearms community, if we truly care about saving lives, this is something we need to pay attention to. Not only the suicide thing, but the drug overdose thing, because it is happening every day all around us to people we know.
Yeah. And, all of it, whether it's people who are being active killers, whether it comes down to people escaping from reality by using narcotics and drugs, or people committing suicide. I think Ivan, you really helped me nail down my opinion on this, that it comes back to people aren't accountable and people don't know what reality is anymore. And everyone wants their kids to feel great about every single thing they do. But guys, there's true repercussions in life. And when you do something dumb or stupid, you have repercussions for that. And I don't think that society these days makes people feel those repercussions as much as they probably should, until they become adults and then they feel these real life repercussions. And I think just kind of raising a bunch of snowflakes in this country has led us to all this. And Ken, I agree with you. It's important to know how to help people from this, but ultimately we need to toughen up our kids a little bit more than I think we are these days. And
people are, sorry.
No, go ahead.
People are so insulated from failure, and that's it. And being insulated from failure, you have no concept of the fact that there are repercussions or any of those other things.
Yeah.
And
I agree wholeheartedly. I think that we have created a timeout society, and I have been on this soapbox for a long time. Timeout for adults is prison.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we give them timeout now. We send them, you're in timeout. Sit there with your hands crossed or your feet crossed and your hands on your lap. Well, that's what you do when you're sitting in a jail cell too.
Yeah. Excellent discussion, guys. Some definite things to think about there. Next story. I don't know why I picked it. A high school teacher kills her ex's girlfriend in front of her own kids. Sorry. Took me a second to process that one. But this former high school teacher walks up, shoots, goes to her ex's home, shoots his girlfriend in front of her kids. And then the ex sees what's happening, takes the gun from her, realizes that the person that she shot, his girlfriend, is beyond saving, and then holds her until police come there. But, it's kind of the same thing we just talked about. How is this an answer to anything? And of course people go crazy all the time, but I just don't. Maybe it's because I failed when I was growing up and I learned the repercussions of failure early on in my life. But I don't even know how this is an option. Ken, how about you?
This is so wrong on so many levels. Yeah. You lose your mind, fine. But even when my first marriage and I was fighting with my wife, it was never in front of the kids. We always had that agreement. So I'm thinking murder in front of the kids isn't a positive thing. Yeah. They maybe you should have sent them to the other room before you did that. Yeah, this is a lot of jail time coming.
Yeah, and she has every bit of it coming. Ivan?
Yeah, I mean, it's just fundamental lack of value in like life, period. And I think that has kind of progressed through society. And I mean, you see it on just different levels too, where like I just processed like 2 deer in my kitchen, and it's like, hey, like this was alive. Like we can all appreciate that, and it's no longer walking and breathing. And even those small like fundamental things, like it drives home the fact that like, yeah, like life's pretty precious. Like everyone around you, like they're alive, they're breathing, and if that stops, like it's not coming back.
Yep, without question. Good stuff. FBI is going to start tracking police use of deadly force. I think this is actually very important because I think we hear a lot of stuff about. I think we're going through now what we've been going through for the last 20 years, that 24-hour news cycle. I personally, I'm not sure that police are killing people in greater numbers. I actually don't believe that they are. I believe we just hear about it more often because, the family or the friends of whoever got killed, they want to find meaning in the death, and they want to blame somebody, and they want to rail against whatever entity killed the person that they loved. And police have been taking the brunt of that for, hundreds of years in this country. But I don't think that this is going to show anything else. Now, the information is voluntary. Right now, they have some other FBI national databases, and about 11,000 out of the 18,000 law enforcement agencies contribute to that database, and they assume it'll be about the same for this one. But what I think is that it's just going to show that things haven't changed and that cops are not killing innocent people in great numbers or anything like that. I think that sometimes it happens. We talked about it in a couple stories on the show, like the cop who came home to the wrong home and killed the guy. I mean, clearly that's bad. And I'm not saying that all cops are great. Like some cops do terrible things, just like some human beings do terrible things. But I think it'll be good to have a database that we can actually prove out that hypothesis over the coming years. Ken?
Yeah, it will be good to have that. And I'm sure we all think that it's horrible now, that the numbers are outrageous. And like you said, it's that 24-hour news cycle. I think that's what's wrong with the number of us now. I think that's why the stress level is so high. I think that's why people are taking drugs so much. I think that's why they're committing suicide so much. I don't think we were built to take in this much information, this much bad information constantly. Going into, our systems were not built to handle that much information. Yeah, and we are seeing it. There's one time where you go, okay, I'm not going to watch the news now. It's just making me sick. But it is fed into our phones and into our ears and to our visual perception. Every single minute of the day. Something happens horrible. It's all over the television. Ticker down at the bottom. My phone lights up. 4 kids come up missing. Yeah, we're not built for it. And it would be good to see actual information versus what is piped into my head every day.
Yeah. Ivan?
I'm actually just really surprised that no one was tracking that. Like how is that statistic not being tracked?
I kind of agree. I was a little bit surprised that it wasn't.
Yeah.
So true. So it'll start being tracked coming very soon. I think that's a good thing. I think we can all agree there. Let's move into our I'm Offended segment. I do want to pick a couple stories out of this one. First off, California assemblyman proposes attacks on semi-autos. This is coming, folks. I mean, it exists in Chicago and Washington. It's coming to California. That's just plainly going to happen. But basically, they want to put a tax on semi-auto firearms. It looks like about $25 on most firearm sales, as a model. And that gun tax will support the kind of interventions that make gun violence less likely in the first place, which is exactly what we need to do. And they'll give that to, it'll go to support community violence prevention programs that already exist. So they'll take that tax money and funnel it directly to those programs. I don't even know how, I mean, clearly a tax on a right is ridiculous to me, but Ivan, what do you think?
I mean, they're stealing more money, and like, I don't think that stuff would be or I don't think where the money going is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Because if it was, like, you wouldn't need to add in $25 from every firearms purchase. You'd be like, you know what? We're having such amazing results with this gun violence mitigation thing that we're going to dump millions of dollars into it directly from everywhere we can pull, i.e. steal money from taxpayers, because it is so successful. Like, if it was really that successful, it wouldn't be a matter of $25 on a purchase. Like, you would pull money from everywhere and make it work. Yeah. And honestly, I doubt the money's actually going to those places anyway.
Agreed. Ken?
Amen.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. Legal citizens will pay the $25 and they will do what they're supposed to do because the law requires them to do it. Criminals will not even know that there is a tax on legal firearms because they never paid for a firearm that way anyway. Yeah, there's already a tax on them. They already pay 4 times what it costs for a Glock on the street anyway because they're purchasing it illegally or they stole it. So yeah, it's ridiculous. And you're right. I doubt very seriously, just like the Michigan lottery, all of the money is supposed to go to education when they pitched it to us, and all that meant was they're going to defund education from the other side, and so they'll dump this money into some invisible pot somewhere and incentivize some politician somewhere.
Yep. In Colorado, marijuana sales were supposed to go towards education, yet every ballot I see still has increases in taxes to pay for schooling and stuff like that. So I know this is like $1 billion industry in Colorado, yet that money's not going anywhere. And the reason why is because federal law prohibits them from depositing it into FDIC insured banks and things like that. So it's a cash business. So it's rife with criminality, and look, good for them.
And they hope you guys are so high you don't recognize it.
Right. Exactly. Georgia Police Department wants citizens to give them firearm serial numbers. This is from Chatham County. They're asking residents to provide serial numbers to firearms in order to help police find them if they're stolen. They're getting there's a big increase in the number of guns that have been stolen from unlocked cars, burglaries, that type of things. A third of them don't have serial numbers. They're asking them to go to a place, leads online, and log the guns and to report it so that if it gets stolen, they can just tell the cops, hey, my serial number is on this service, and then the cops can just go and look it up. I am going to withhold my thoughts on this. And Ken, what do you think about that?
Okay, I saw this story early in the week, and instantly I read it and I said, well, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. So first of all, guys, Georgia, I know you can carry in your car. Stop leaving the effing guns in your car. Your car is safe. It does not need a gun. Take the effing gun out of your cars. All right. 2, if your gun is stolen, I'm going to call the police and I'm going to say my gun has been stolen, and I'm going to pull out my sheet that I keep that has all of the serial numbers of all of my guns on it. And I'm going to say, hey, my Glock was stolen, and here's the serial number that was on my stolen Glock. So if you run across it, it's mine. I don't know why I have to register it ahead of time. If my gun gets stolen, I'll tell you what the serial number is. This is the dumbest thing ever.
Ivan, do you trust the government with your gun serial numbers?
Trust them with nothing. So,
did you used to work for them?
Yeah, I'm like inside looking out, like, nope.
I completely agree, man. I'm like, nope, not a chance. But Ken, you actually bring up a really valid point, and that's I used to keep a track of my serial numbers. I don't anymore, and that I have got to fix that. Like, things just got crazy, and I got more guns than I knew what to do with, and then I quit keeping good detailed track of it. Like, I know where I bought every gun, and I'm sure I could go bother my FFLs to find the serial numbers. I have a good idea of when, because I take pictures of everything, and then I can keep tracking Google Photos and then go, oh, I bought this in, January, because that's when my first picture of it was. But man, I need to quit being stupid and keep a list of that. I will keep that list in a safe, hidden where only I have the combination to that. But yeah, I do not trust the government with that. I will only give them the numbers that they need if something gets stolen. And yeah, it's just not going to happen for me.
Side note, chances are in your photos, you actually have all your serial numbers.
Probably. Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Probably. All right, let's move into the full auto news. This is just some crazy stuff that kind of goes on. Now, Ivan, what was the story that you chose?
I chose, where is it?
It was the Illinois man.
That's a great story.
There it is. Top one. Yeah. Illinois man had no cash, so robbed
The robber stole his
weird
fried
here.
chicken.
Basically, the robber stole the guy's fried chicken. Like, I appreciate that story on two levels. One, the robber was like, you know what? Like, I've already made my bed. Like, the gun's out. I already have this guy at gunpoint. Like, I'm gonna walk away with something. Like, that guy's obviously pragmatic. He's like, you know what? Like, I'm probably gonna be hungry later. Just give me the chicken at least. Like, all right. But two, I also appreciate that whatever your possessions are, money, anything, like, it is not worth losing your life over. Like, if dude wants chicken, or if the dude wants like your Rolex, hand it over, man. Like, not worth it.
I agree. It's not worth a life on either side. Ken?
That story made me laugh out loud because I could just hear the conversation in my head. Yeah, the guy comes up and give me your money. Dude, I ain't got no money, man. And he's smacking on his chick. I ain't got no money, man. I ain't got no money. Dude, you ain't got no money. I ain't got no money, man. I just went up here and bought this chicken, and this is all dude, I ain't got no money. I spent my life. Give me that damn chicken in. That shit smell good anyway.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, fried chicken is one of my favorite things on earth. You can't really get good fried chicken in Colorado. There's one place, and it has actually the best fried chicken I've had in my whole life. But everywhere we go, like I travel a ton, and I'm always just like, hey man, you got any good fried chicken here? And most places say no, some places say yes, and then I go there and it's just disappointing. So yeah, I would rob somebody for some chicken.
I'm taking the chicken, man.
My story is Arizona man accidentally shoots himself in the groin at Walmart. Yeah, he was doing waistband carry and accidentally shot himself in the groin. He was transported to the hospital, no other injuries. No one else got injured. And he was in the meat section, which I guess is poetic justice. They haven't said whether they're going to charge him or anything like that. But this is another reason why like second call defense is good. Like negligent discharges, things like that. They even help cover you on stuff like that. But guys, holsters, man, wear holsters. Like, don't put it in your pocket. Don't put it in your waistband. Like, put it in a holster and then put it wherever you're going to put it. You guys agree?
Absolutely.
That's a hard lesson to learn.
They're having that dick shrinkage as well.
Yeah.
Ken, what was your story?
My story is come to Jesus story. It's women are heading out to church. 3 women, various ages, an older woman, middle-aged woman, and a young woman headed out to church, and they're greeted by this guy coming in to rob them. And he pushes them back to the house. Well, one of the women goes in. The older woman, I believe, goes in, grabs her gun, comes back and shoots the guy and kills him. The moral of the story is don't stop old ladies from going to church.
Yeah.
God will get you.
Yeah, exactly. Or how about quit being criminal pieces of crap?
That works too. That works too. But yeah, had it been Wednesday, he probably would have been okay because God wasn't looking on Wednesday. He was definitely looking at something.
Exactly. Good for them, man. I'm so she like goes back in her house, gets the gun, hits him in the chest. Good. Yeah. Good.
That's what they are for, to defend your life. And if a guy is honestly, Sean, and I know you're an instructor as well, but one of the things we teach is, if somebody's breaking into your home when you're not there, it means that they don't want to have any confrontations. They want to come in, get what they want, and leave. They want to take your goods while you're not home. But if they're coming while you're there, they're there for other things than just your personal belongings. Usually, they're there to harm you physically. So this guy got exactly what he deserved.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for him, not even a tiny little bit. All right, that'll do it for the stories tonight, guys. But before we go, I definitely want to find out what you guys are up to and where people can find you online. Ivan, what's been going on for you, man?
Been busy creating videos. I have my site, kitbadger.com, and do a bunch of outdoor and tactical kind of gear reviews, as well as kind of review weapons, courses, stuff like that. And been busy, put out about 3 videos a week.
Dang, that's
Wow.
pretty awesome. I definitely need to watch more of them for sure. What would you say? What would you say your audience likes most about the content that you create?
I think one, it's just kind of me being me and just honest about stuff. Like, hey, this is my experience with it, and just drawing exactly from that, like from my experience. Like, hey, this is how it treated me. Sample size of 1. Here's what I like about it. Here's what I don't like about it, and laying all that out so that someone can read into it whatever they want. I'll say, hey, I don't like these because of this. And someone will be like, you know what? I never do that with that item, so it's a non-issue. Or, hey, I'm planning on doing that. That's a non-starter for me.
Yeah.
And there's value there.
Yeah, definitely, man. And kitbadger.com is where they can find all the content that you create, right?
Correct.
Very cool, man. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it. Glad to have you.
Yeah, glad to be here, man.
Ken Ross, I know you've been busy. What's been up, man?
We are putting out a ton of publications. It's a really busy time for us. For some reason, we thought that putting out 5 or 6 magazines in 1 month was a good idea. At some point in time, we thought that was a good idea, and we're going to have to revisit that, I think. But Ballistic, we are wrapping up the spring issue of Ballistic. There's also one on the newsstand right now. The winter 2019 issue of Ballistic is on newsstands right now. It's got the STI on the cover, Magnum PI's STI on the cover. So go out and pick that up on newsstands. We've got the Magnum issue is on newsstands right now. And the cover is a little deceiving because it's got a lot of words on it. It's got our magazines behind it. But if you grab that issue, it's 160 pages, I believe, and it's got a crap load of content in it. Really good stories, really good reviews, and some of the things were pulled from other publications throughout the year. So if you missed some publications from Athlon, the Magnum issue will probably have it in there. It is one of the better compilation of stories that I think we've put together. So grab that as well. We've got stuff on the web. We've got our ballisticmag.com. We've got personaldefenseworld.com. We've got realworldsurvivor.com and tacticallife.com. So you can find our content there, and I'm doing some writing for Ballistic, and you can follow me on social media at KROSSTAC. I think that's it, right? Yeah, that's it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
hurry up and follow me. I want to get to 1,000 followers. So
What?
right now I suck. I
All
suck
right.
right now.
Get him there. Cross back. All right, get him there, man. No, Ken, is great as always. Appreciate all your insights, man.
Hey, it's a pleasure being here, man. Thanks for having me. I'll come back anytime.
Absolutely. Go check those guys out. And don't forget Patriot Patch Company, patriotpatch.co. And definitely think about Second Call Defense, some self-defense insurance. Firearmsradio.tv/SCD will tell you everything you need to know about that. Most importantly, This Week in Guns is produced by Kenny Ortega and is a production of the Firearms Radio Network. And guys, I'll see you next week.